the secret to life the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree. Long ago, under the silent gaze of the Himalayan mountains, a young prince stepped outside the gilded walls of his palace for the very first time. He had been sheltered from the harshness of the world, surrounded only by beauty, music, and youth. Yet on that fateful day, he encountered something that changed him forever. He saw an old man, frail and bent with age. He saw a sick man, groaning in pain. He saw a lifeless body carried away to the place of cremation. And finally, he saw a serene monk, walking with peace in his eyes. That young prince was Siddhartha Gautama, the one we would come to know as the Buddha. And in those encounters, the great question of existence broke open within his heart. Why are we here? What is the meaning of this fragile life that begins in birth, stumbles through aging and sickness, and inevitably ends in death? Is it all just a cycle of suffering? Or is there something deeper, something enduring, something worth seeking? My friends, this same question that stirred the prince's soul is the same question that stirs in ours. No matter where you are, no matter your culture or faith, at some point you've probably asked yourself, what is the point of all this? Why do we strive? Why do we suffer? Why do we keep reaching for something more? And perhaps most importantly, what is the meaning of my own existence? You see, this is not just a philosopher's curiosity. It is the cry of the human heart. We chase after wealth, relationships, success, pleasure, hoping that in these things we will finally answer the aching question inside. Yet when the lights fade and silence comes, the question remains. The Buddha too wrestled with this. He had tasted the sweetness of worldly pleasures, yet they left him hollow. He had glimpsed the suffering of humanity, and he could no longer ignore it. So he set out, not to collect theories, but to seek a truth that could end the restless hunger of existence. And here is the lesson for us. We are not here to escape the question, nor to silence it with distractions. We are here to face it, to walk into it with courage, and to discover through experience, not mere belief, what truly gives life meaning. The story of the Buddha reminds us that the search itself is holy, that questioning is not weakness, but the very beginning of awakening. So let me ask you now, as if we were sitting face to face in the quiet of a temple garden or beneath a Bodhi tree, why are you here? What gives your life meaning? And if you do not yet know, are you willing to walk with me on this journey of discovery? Because the path the Buddha uncovered is not a path of blind faith or borrowed answers. It is a path of awakening, awakening to the truth of suffering, awakening to the law of impermanence, awakening to the vast web of compassion that binds us all. And perhaps, as we walk together, we too will come to see that the meaning of existence is not hidden in some distant heaven or secret doctrine, but right here, in the breath we take, in the love we give, in the wisdom we cultivate. Tell me, do you feel the question stirring in you now? If you do, then take heart. You are already on the path. You are already walking the same road that once carried a prince out of his palace and into the arms of truth. And just like him, you may one day awaken to a freedom that no suffering, no death, no passing shadow can ever take away. Section 1. The human longing for meaning. When we look deeply into our own lives, we see that this longing for meaning is not something rare or reserved for monks and philosophers. It is woven into the very fabric of being human. From the time we are children, questions stir within us. Who am I? Why am I here? What will happen when I die? At first, the world distracts us with toys, then with ambitions, then with possessions and relationships. But no matter how much we gather, the question quietly follows us, like a shadow at dusk. Think about it. You may have worked hard to build a life, perhaps a career, perhaps a family, perhaps dreams of wealth or recognition. And yet, when you sit alone in the stillness of the night, has your heart not whispered, "Is this all there is? Is there something beyond the endless chase for more?" That whisper is the beginning of wisdom. It is the same whisper that stirred within Prince Siddhartha when he saw old age, sickness and death. The world told him to be content with pleasures, power, and luxury. But his heart knew that these things could not satisfy the deepest hunger of the soul. The Buddha named this condition dukkha, the restlessness, the dissatisfaction, the unease that seems to cling even to our happiest moments. We marry, but even love cannot shield us from change. We build wealth, but even gold cannot guard us from aging. We achieve success, but even fame cannot prevent death. Life is always moving, always slipping through our fingers, and because of this impermanence, our hearts ache for something steady, something real, something beyond. Now many people fear this ache, but they try to silence it with constant activity, television, travel, gossip, work, endless scrolling on glowing screens. But the Buddha invites us not to run from this longing, but to listen to it. For beneath the ache lies an invitation, a doorway to awakening. This longing for meaning is not a curse. It is a compass pointing us toward truth. Let us consider our own lives for a moment. Have you ever achieved something you thought would finally make you happy, only to find the joy fading soon after? Maybe it was a promotion, a new car, a romance, or a long-awaited purchase. For a while the heart danced, but soon enough, the old dissatisfaction returned. This cycle reveals a great truth. We cannot fill the void of meaning with temporary things. The joy of the senses fades. The pride of achievement passes. Even the people we love most are impermanent, fragile, beyond our control. This realization can feel heavy, but in the Buddha's teaching it is actually the beginning of liberation. For when we stop expecting the world to give us lasting meaning, we finally turn inward, toward the one place where true freedom can be found. The human longing for meaning is not a mistake. It is the very spark that sets us on the spiritual path. Without this longing, we would remain asleep in the dream of comfort, never awakening to reality. The Buddha himself said, "Being myself subject to birth, aging, sickness and death, I sought the unborn, unaging, undying, sorrowless, undefiled supreme peace, Nibbana." Do you hear the honesty in those words? Even he, the prince raised in luxury, could not escape the questions that burn in every human heart. And it was precisely this longing that pushed him to renounce the palace, to walk barefoot into the wilderness, to dedicate his life to seeking the truth. So my friends, do not despise this longing within you. Do not drown it with distractions or numb it with pleasures. See it for what it is, a call to awaken. Each ache, each question, each restless night is like a knock at the door of your soul, asking you to step onto the path of discovery. And when you open that door, you begin to see that the meaning of existence is not found in chasing illusions, but in uncovering the timeless truths that lie beneath them. This is the beginning of the journey. This is where the search for meaning starts, not in answers given by others, but in the raw, honest recognition of your own longing. Section 2. The nature of existence. If we are to speak of the meaning of existence, then we must first look directly at what existence truly is. The Buddha did not begin his teaching with abstract theories about gods or the creation of the universe. He began with what each of us can see, here and now if we dare to look closely. He spoke of birth and death, of joy and sorrow, of the restless turning of life itself. He spoke of existence as it is, not as we wish it to be. The Buddha's first and most profound insight is this: all conditioned things are impermanent. Look around you, the body you carry, the house you live in, the relationships you hold dear, the possessions you guard so carefully. All of these are in constant change. Nothing stays the same. The flower that blooms today withers tomorrow. The child who clings to your hand becomes an adult and walks away. Even mountains wear down over time, and stars themselves burn out in the vastness of space. Impermanence, or anicca, is not an opinion. It is the very law of reality. And because everything is impermanent, there is another truth. There is no lasting self to cling to. The Buddha called this anatta, or non-self. What we call I is not a solid permanent entity, but a stream of changing conditions, thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations, and desires, all arising and passing like clouds across the sky. We say, "This is me, this is mine, this is who I am." But if you sit quietly and observe, you will see that your body changes, your emotions shift, your thoughts come and go. Where then is the permanent self? It is an illusion, like a flame dancing on a candle, real yet without essence. This impermanence and non-self lead us to the Buddha's third great truth, suffering, or dukkha. Because we cling to what is changing, we suffer when it slips away. We cling to youth, and we suffer when age takes it. We cling to health, and we suffer when sickness arrives. We cling to people we love, and we suffer when death carries them away. We even cling to ideas about ourselves, and we suffer when life proves them false. The very structure of existence, when misunderstood, creates dissatisfaction. This is why, even at the height of pleasure, there lingers a quiet unease, the fear that it will not last, the knowledge that it must end. But the Buddha did not stop there. He taught the Four Noble Truths, a map for understanding existence itself. First, life, as ordinarily lived, is marked by suffering. Second, the cause of this suffering is craving and ignorance, our endless thirst for permanence in a world that is ever changing. Third, there is freedom from suffering, a state beyond the reach of craving and death. Fourth, there is a path to this freedom, a way of living and seeing that leads us to awakening. We must also speak of karma and rebirth, for they explain why existence continues as it does. Karma is not fate, nor is it punishment from an external judge. Karma is simply action and its consequences. Every thought, every word, every deed plants a seed in the field of consciousness. In time, those seeds bear fruit. Compassionate actions bring peace. Greedy or hateful actions bring suffering. When death comes, the stream of consciousness does not vanish, but flows onward, shaped by the momentum of our karma, taking new forms, new lives, new bodies. This cycle of birth and death, called samsara, is the great wheel in which we wander, searching endlessly for happiness, but often meeting sorrow. Yet within this very cycle lies the key to its end. For if our actions weave the pattern of our lives, then by changing our actions, by purifying our mind, we can break free from the wheel. Existence is not a prison built by another. It is a path shaped by our own steps. And if we walk with mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion, the path will lead us beyond suffering, beyond illusion, to the highest peace. So when we ask, what is the nature of existence? The Buddha answers, it is impermanent, without a permanent self, and unsatisfactory when grasped wrongly. But he also tells us this very existence, when understood rightly, becomes the ground of liberation. The waves of change that once drowned us become the very ocean on which we sail to freedom. This is why the Buddha did not teach despair. He taught awakening. He showed that to see existence clearly is not to fall into hopelessness, but to open the eyes of wisdom. For when we see things as they are, we stop clinging to shadows, and we begin to walk toward the light of truth. Section 3. The Path of Awakening. The Buddha's great discovery beneath the Bodhi tree was not simply that life is filled with suffering, nor that existence is impermanent and without a fixed self. His great gift to humanity was the path, the way out of confusion, the way beyond the endless wheel of craving and disappointment. He called it the middle way, a path of balance, a path of awakening. Why middle? Because the Buddha himself had walked both extremes. As a prince, he had lived in indulgence, surrounded by luxury, yet found it hollow. As an ascetic, he had tortured his body with hunger and pain, yet found no wisdom in such extremes. He realized that truth is not found in excess, nor in denial, but in balance, a way of living that honors the body without becoming its slave. a way of disciplining the mind without crushing the heart. This balance is the middle way, and from it arises the Eightfold Path, the roadmap to liberation. The Eightfold Path is not 8 separate steps to climb one after another. It is a circle, a living whole, each part supporting the others. Let us walk through it together, not as scholars but as seekers. First comes right view. To walk wisely, we must see clearly. Right view is not blind belief, but understanding reality as it is. Impermanence, non-self, suffering, and the law of karma. It is like opening our eyes after a lifetime of sleep. Without right view, we stumble. With it, we begin to see the path beneath our feet. Next is right intention. Once we see, we must choose. Do we live for greed, hatred, and delusion? Or do we live with the intention of renunciation, goodwill, and compassion? Intention shapes action, and action shapes destiny. When we set our hearts on kindness and simplicity, we begin to create a life of meaning. Then comes right speech. Words are powerful. They can heal, or they can wound, bring peace or ignite conflict. Right speech means speaking truthfully, gently, and with purpose. Each word becomes an offering of compassion, rather than a weapon of harm. Right action follows. This is the practice of living ethically, refraining from killing, stealing, or harming others. It is simple, yet profound. To live with right action is to recognize that every being longs for happiness, just as we do, and to honor that longing in how we live. Then we have right livelihood. How do we earn our bread? Do we gain wealth by harming others? Or do we choose work that supports life, that uplifts rather than destroys? The Buddha taught that our livelihood too is part of the path. A life of meaning cannot be built on the suffering of others. Next is right effort. Awakening does not come through laziness or despair. It requires energy, persistence, and determination. But it is not the frantic effort of greed. It is the steady, gentle effort of tending a garden, pulling out weeds of unwholesome states, watering seeds of wisdom and compassion, keeping watch with care. Right mindfulness is perhaps the jewel at the heart of the path. To be mindful is to be fully present, awake in each moment. When eating, just eating. When walking, just walking. When breathing, just breathing. In mindfulness, we stop running from life and begin to taste its truth directly. And finally, right concentration. This is the deep stillness of meditation, where the scattered mind gathers into clarity. In such concentration, the mind becomes like a calm lake, reflecting truth without distortion. From this stillness arises wisdom, and from wisdom, liberation. Do you see, my friends, how this path is not an escape from life, but a transformation of life? It does not ask us to abandon the world, but to walk through it differently, awake, compassionate, and free. The Eightfold Path is not a burden but a blessing, a way of living where even the simplest acts, eating a meal, speaking to a neighbor, earning a living, become steps toward awakening. The Buddha often spoke in stories, for stories speak to the heart more deeply than lists. Remember Angulimala, the murderer feared by all. When he met the Buddha, his path turned from violence to peace, from hatred to wisdom. Remember Kisagotami, broken by the death of her child. The Buddha did not give her lofty theories, but sent her to gather mustard seeds from a household untouched by death. She found none, and in her sorrow discovered the truth of impermanence. Through such stories, we see that the path of awakening is not for saints alone. It is for killers and grieving mothers, for princes and peasants, for all of us who dare to open our eyes. And so, the path of awakening is not a mystery hidden in sacred caves. It is here, in the breath you take now, in the words you speak next, in the choices you make today. The question is not whether the path exists, but whether we will walk it. Section 4. Compassion and Interconnectedness. When the Buddha awakened beneath the Bodhi tree, He saw not only the truth of suffering and the path beyond it, but also the great web of life itself. He saw that no being exists alone. Each of us is bound to countless others, like jewels strung together in a net, each reflecting the light of all the others. To understand existence is to understand this interconnectedness. To live meaningfully is to live with compassion. Think for a moment about the breath you are taking right now. It is not yours alone. The air you breathe comes from trees and oceans, from the work of countless unseen forces. The food on your table is not yours alone. It is the labor of farmers, the gift of the earth, the blessing of sun and rain. Even your body is not truly separate. It carries the blood of ancestors, the cells of generations past, the mark of relationships and experiences that shaped you. Where then is the isolated self? It does not exist. We are threads in a vast tapestry, each depending on the other, because we are interconnected. Compassion is not optional. It is natural. To harm another is to harm ourselves. To uplift another is to uplift ourselves. This is why the Buddha taught the four divine abodes: metta, loving kindness; karuna, compassion; mudita, sympathetic joy; and upekkha, equanimity. These are not just lofty ideals. They are the very attitudes that allow us to live in harmony with the truth of interbeing. Metta is the wish for the happiness of all beings. It begins with ourselves. May I be well, may I be safe, may I be at peace, and then it expands outward, to friends, strangers, even enemies. In metta we discover that love need not be limited, that the heart can stretch as wide as the sky. Karuna is compassion, the wish to relieve the suffering of others. When we see someone in pain, the heart responds, may you be free from this sorrow. Compassion does not always fix the problem, but it opens a space of tenderness, a refusal to turn away. In that space, healing becomes possible. Mudita is sympathetic joy, the ability to rejoice in the happiness of others. In a world driven by jealousy and comparison, mudita frees us. When we can celebrate the success and joy of another, as if it were our own, we dissolve the illusion of separation. Their happiness becomes ours. And upekkha is equanimity, the calm balance that sees all beings with equal regard. It is not coldness, but clarity. It is the understanding that each being walks their own path, shaped by their karma, and that we can love them without trying to control them. Equanimity allows us to remain steady amidst the changing tides of life, holding compassion without attachment. These four attitudes are not theories. They are practices. They transform ordinary moments into sacred ones. To greet a neighbor with kindness, to forgive someone who wronged us, to share in another's joy, to remain calm when life is turbulent. These are acts of awakening. They show us that the meaning of existence is not found in selfish striving, but in opening the heart wider and wider until it embraces all beings. Consider the Bodhisattva, the one who vows not to enter final liberation until all beings are free. This vow may sound impossible, but it reflects the deepest truth. Our liberation is bound with the liberation of others. We cannot awaken alone, for our very being is interwoven. To be truly free is to help others be free. The Buddha's own life demonstrates this. After his enlightenment, he could have remained in the forest, enjoying the bliss of liberation and solitude, but compassion stirred within him. He saw humanity like lotuses in a pond, some still buried in the mud, some rising through the water, some about to bloom. Out of compassion, he chose to teach, knowing that even those buried deep in darkness could one day rise into the light. And so, my friends, if you ask, why are we here? One answer is this: we are here for each other. We are here to love, to serve, to ease suffering, to rejoice in the joy of others. We are here to discover that our lives are not separate threads but a single woven cloth, shimmering with the light of countless beings. When you live with compassion, your life will never be meaningless. For every act of kindness, however small, ripples across the vast web of existence. A smile to a stranger, a meal shared with the hungry, a word of comfort to the grieving. These are not small things. They are echoes of the great truth that binds us all. We belong to one another. Section 5. The ultimate meaning, Nirvana. When we have walked through the truths of suffering, through the endless wheel of karma and rebirth, through the beauty of compassion and the web of interconnectedness, we arrive at the heart of the Buddha's message, Nirvana. This, he taught, is the ultimate meaning of existence, the end of craving, the end of ignorance, the end of the restless wandering that keeps us bound to sorrow. Nirvana is not another place. It is not a heaven where we go after death, nor a hidden realm waiting to be discovered. It is a state of freedom, here and now, available in this very life. It is the extinguishing of the fire that burns within us, the fire of greed, the fire of hatred, the fire of delusion. When those fires go out, what remains is peace beyond words. The Buddha described Nirvana as the unborn, unaging, undying, sorrowless, and undefiled supreme security from bondage. Imagine for a moment living without fear of loss. Imagine a mind no longer shaken by desire or anger, no longer pulled by attachment or aversion. Imagine a heart so vast and clear that it rests in perfect balance with all that arises. This is not imagination. It is the promise of Nirvana. Many people ask, but if there is no self, who reaches Nirvana? Who is it that becomes free? The answer is like asking, when the flame goes out, where does it go? The flame was never a thing in itself. It was a process, dependent on fuel. When the fuel of craving is gone, the flame of suffering ceases. What remains is not annihilation, but liberation. It is not the destruction of life, but the fulfillment of life's deepest purpose. The Buddha's own enlightenment is the shining example. Beneath the Bodhi tree, he saw countless past lives. He saw the workings of karma. He saw beings wandering in the endless round of rebirth. And then in the final watch of the night, he saw the deepest truth of existence, cut through the last veil of ignorance, and entered Nirvana. From that moment on, he lived in perfect freedom, untouched by the storms of the world. Though he still walked, spoke, ate and taught, his heart was unmoved, steady as a mountain. But here is what makes his teaching so extraordinary. The Buddha did not keep Nirvana for himself. He could have remained in the silence of liberation, enjoying the bliss of freedom. Instead, out of compassion, he chose to teach. He knew that though the truth was deep, there were those with little dust in their eyes, who could hear, who could awaken, who could be freed. His decision to share the Dhamma was itself an act of Nirvana, selfless, compassionate, luminous. For us, what does this mean? It means that the meaning of existence is not to collect pleasures or escape suffering by ignoring it. The meaning of existence is to awaken. It is to see life clearly, to end the fires of craving, and to discover the peace that no change, no death, no loss can ever touch. This awakening is not reserved for saints or monks. It is a possibility for every one of us, right here, in the ordinary breath we take, in the steps we walk, in the choices we make. When we taste even a glimpse of Nirvana, even a moment of deep peace when the mind lets go of clinging, we understand something profound. Freedom is possible. Life is not meaningless wandering. It is a path that leads to the highest liberation. And this is why, in the end, Nirvana is not only the answer to the question, why are we here? It is the answer to the question, what is the deepest destiny of the human heart? So my friends, when you feel lost, when you feel that life is nothing but endless struggle, remember this: the Buddha has shown us that there is a way out. Meaning is not found in clinging to what fades, but in releasing what binds. The ultimate purpose of existence is to awaken to this freedom, to walk the path of Nirvana, and to rest in the peace that no sorrow can disturb. Conclusion. So my friends, we have walked together through many layers of this great question. Why are we here? What is the meaning of existence? We began with the Buddha's own story, with his eyes opening to the realities of old age, sickness, and death. We saw how his longing for meaning mirrors our own, how each restless night, each ache in the heart, is a call to awaken. We looked into the nature of existence itself, impermanence, non-self, suffering, and discovered that though life shifts and fades, this very change is the key to wisdom. We followed the Buddha as he uncovered the middle way, the eightfold path, the living guide that shows us how to walk wisely, speak truthfully, act compassionately, and train the mind toward freedom. We learned that our lives are not separate streams, but threads in a single fabric of interdependence, and that compassion, loving kindness, joy, equanimity, is not just virtue, but the very pulse of existence. And finally, we touched the heart of the matter, Nirvana, the end of craving, the extinguishing of the fires, the freedom that is the highest peace. So what is the meaning of our existence? It is not to amass wealth, for wealth slips away. It is not to cling to youth, for youth fades. It is not to seek endless pleasure, for pleasure dissolves. The meaning of existence is to awaken to truth, to awaken to love, to awaken to the freedom that no sorrow can steal. And let us not think this awakening belongs only to saints or sages. The Buddha's path is open to all, to kings and beggars, to mothers and children, to those weighed down by grief, and those blinded by ambition. The path is open to you, right here, right now, in the way you breathe, in the way you speak, in the way you choose compassion over cruelty, mindfulness over distraction, truth over illusion. The meaning of existence is not hidden in distant heavens or locked away in sacred books. It is discovered in your own heart, when you let go of clinging and open yourself to wisdom. It is lived in every act of kindness, every moment of mindfulness, every step you take toward liberation. And so as we close this journey, let me leave you with this. You are here not by accident. You are here because life itself is giving you the chance to awaken. You are here to love and to be loved, to suffer and to learn, to walk and to rise, to fall and to stand again. You are here to discover that freedom is possible. May you not waste this precious existence chasing shadows. May you turn inward, touch the truth, and find the peace that the Buddha himself found beneath the Bodhi tree. May you live not only for yourself, but for all beings, knowing that their freedom is your freedom, their joy is your joy. And when you ask again, why am I here? What is the meaning of existence? May your heart answer, clear and steady, I am here to awaken. I am here to love. I am here to be free.